Hi, my name is Gil Robertson, president of the African American Film Critics Association. Today, we're thrilled to be talking to actress Chris Marshall, one of the stars of the Apple TV Plus series For All Mankind. We're going to kick things off by introducing you to the AAFCA members on the call today, starting with Nancy Green in Los Angeles and Dana Abercrombie in New York, to be joined in a minute by Jill Monroe, also in uh, Los Angeles, and Karan Nawar Kelly in Charlottesville, Virginia. I'm going to let you guys do what you do so well, and I'll see you on the other side.
The Russians put the first man on the moon.
That's steps away from nuclear war.
There's no going back.
A three-way race to Mars.
We're not going to come in second place again.
Today, we take the next step towards a self-sustaining Mars colony.
They're looking for guys just like us.
This job on Mars, I could be doing something that I never even dreamed of.
For the next 2 years of your life, Mars is your new home.
What's happened?
Something incredible.
This asteroid, it could change everything for people back home.
There's more iridium in the asteroid than has been mined in the entire history of Earth.
We can capture the most valuable known object in our solar system.
North Koreans, CIA, KGB, they're all wanting a piece of this pie.
Is this about justice or filling your pockets? What are you going to do with all that money if you're dead?
I always thought I'd go out, play the glory.
I'm gonna get that rock or die trying.
We are powerless up here.
1,000,000 miles from my family. This isn't what it was supposed to be.
People are going to keep getting hurt while your bank accounts grow bigger and bigger.
Building a new world for our future.
You ready to make history? Always, my friend.
I'm Nancy Green with Film Critique.
Hi, Nancy. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing good.
Good, good. And I was wondering, with this show being so much, of course, about alternate history and things that could have happened, what are some of the issues that you feel like could be addressed in terms of like civil rights and other Black issues that have happened in reality and how they could have been different in this sort of alternate universe?
Yeah. I think that, when President Obama won his election and became our president, it was an enormous sort of actualization of what I think many, many generations of Black Americans, formerly enslaved Americans, have come to realize. The fact that it took until 2008 for that to happen is unfortunate. I love that in our timeline in season 3, we see that we have a female president who later is the first openly gay president. And so we often talk and say to kids, like, you can be anything you want to be. If you can dream it, you can believe it. And I don't think that's actually true. I think that kids need to see for themselves the reality of what can be done through their own 2 eyes. And so if those limitations are sort of set in place and we've never seen a Black female president or we've never seen a Black man be president, then it's really tough to imagine that to be true. So I wish that that so many parts of the For All Mankind timeline were true in our real world. I wish that there were more women in STEM and in research. I wish that there were women at the head and a Black woman at the head of what it means to be an astronaut. I love that those aspects of our story are, they're not far-fetched. They're very close to what our reality could be if our reality were better.
Nice, nice. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hello, Dana Abercrombie, The Coalition. I love this series. And so what I'm interested in is the relationship between Danielle and Ed. There's a lot of tension there, especially when it came to the discovery of the hand trimmer. and the back and forth. And it seemed like the power play where he said, you better not regret your decision. And then you responded with, I regret a lot of things in life, but this is not something I regret. Can you talk about where we're going to be at now with these two? And is it going to be that same kind of tension? Are we going to be able to see them maybe talk to each other?
You know, Dana, I can't tell you everything that happens because then Apple's going to sue me. I will just back up a bit before going on to what will become and just talk about what has happened. We have seen, and Nancy, you're asking about the parallels between our world and For All Mankind's world. In our world, we have seen Black women come to the rescue a lot, right? I mean, Stacey Abrams just literally saved the Republic very recently. So we see that same sort of thing happen again and again in our For All Mankind world. In season 1, Danielle risks life and limb to break her arm to protect her colleague Gordo, and also to go back home so that she can look after Clayton, her husband, who is suffering from PTSD from his time in Vietnam. We watch her do it again by almost risking her life, almost losing her life in trying to be the first person on Mars. She warns Ed constantly that Gordo's not doing well, that later Danny Stevens isn't doing well, and he continues to do what people so often do to women and Black women, which is pat her on the head and say, okay, sit back, thanks, Toots, we got it from here. And time again, Danielle is right. She's the voice of reason, and she's being ignored. Even though Ed is a good guy, and I think sometimes the conversation of race and of male-female relationships are very black and white, and ultimately he's not a bad guy. He's not a racist. He's not a misogynist. He's a good person. But because of the lens in which he sees the world, he can't help but trivialize what she's saying. He can't help but dismiss her admonishments or her warnings that she's asking him, please take heed. What I'm saying is actually really important. So I think the big fight that you just saw in episode 5 of season 4 is a culmination of years and years and years of trying to get this person to see that he's got a sty in his eye. He can't see past his own personal relationships to do the right thing. He's doing what best benefits him, not what's good for the tribe. He's doing what's good for the chief. So I think this has been a major fracture in their relationships. I think it's a long time coming, but this is sort of a real inflection point in the friendship and the working relationship between Danielle and Ed. So as the season goes on, without giving away too much, I will just say that there are those moments when you have an argument with someone that you love and you say the thing you shouldn't have said. And I think Danielle really says the things she shouldn't have said. And so we're going to now see the reverberations of her speaking her truth. And there will be some grudge holding. It'll be tough to forgive on both ends. So stay tuned.
Thank you.
Chris, this is Karan with Karanism.com and Love Music Pleasure. It's such an honor to meet you.
Thank you for having me. Yeah.
I actually live with a cosmonaut.
Wow.
My 15-year-old daughter is studying with NASA. She's she's an engineer, she's a scientist, and all of these things. And this is something we share. This series is something we can share together.
Wow.
Afrofuturism is a very real thing. Mm-hmm. Because we've been left out of the future when it comes to science and when it comes to sci-fi in a lot of ways. So I would like to know, where have you found science, space, or futurism in your real life that helped you connect to this work? Because it really is something that our children can and do look up to, and especially seeing your face as a leader who was downed and then chose to come back to a place that didn't respect her in the first place.
Yeah.
How would you speak to young women and our children, and how have you recognized futurism in your own life?
That is a really great question. I will go back to my own childhood and say that I grew up with, I grew up watching MTV. I grew up loving Star Trek. I grew up as a Black nerd. And so often people would say to me, "You talk white. You're not like a regular Black girl." And I find that so infuriating because the idea that a Black woman has to be a certain kind of person is absurd. And every time people see a different iteration of Blackness, they oftentimes make that the exemption. Oh, yeah, she's Black, but she likes this, or she's Black, but she likes that. And I wish that the world could understand that being Black is not a monolith. It's not a single note. It is 88 keys, Black keys, white keys, minor notes, sharp notes. There's so much to us than just whatever this version that you think Blackness is. And so as you're talking about sort of your affinity and your daughter's affinity for science and technology, there are so many Black nerds out there. We exist, but there are not stories about us. And so I think oftentimes we're made to feel isolated because we're shown what it looks like to be an astronaut. It looks like Ryan Gosling in, First Man. It looks like Brad Pitt in Ad Astra. It looks like these things. And it's like, that's actually not true. There are more Black scientists and astronauts than just Mae Jemison. There are more than just a handful of Black folks who are really engaged with the world of technology. It's a sort of silly example, but, in becoming a parent, some folks are really into certain aspects of parenthood, of swaddling and dolling up the nursery and all that. And for me, I was very into the tech. I want the baby booty that does the heart monitor and checks for the oxygen levels. I want the baby monitor that I can see on my iPad, on my iPhone. From when I'm across the country, I can watch the baby. Like the different ways in which we find science and technology and how it influences our everyday lives, I think is so paramount. Another sort of bone I have to pick about the NASA program as a whole is that it's had a difficult time relating how exploration to the moon, exploration to Mars, how that affects life here on Earth. People often say, well, why are we spending all this money, billions of dollars, to try to get to Mars when there's life here on Earth that needs help? And I wish that more folks could understand that with that technology, we're using it to build robotics that will make open heart surgery more efficient with fewer lives lost, or make prosthetics. Like there are so many aspects to the work that we do in science that will affect people positively right here on the ground. So I think the studies that your daughter is doing is, it's incredible. It makes me so excited to know that there are more girls and women, more Black girls and women who are inspired by Danielle, who can see themselves in Danielle, who are open to the idea of doing something that they never thought that they could do because they see Danielle doing it.
And Chris, it makes me so excited to know that you acknowledge that, because I will share this with her. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Chris, one of the things that happens is that we go through a time jump. So we get to see the evolution of Danielle over not just seasons, but many years in theory in the course of a character. So can you speak to a little bit about how the viewpoint of a Black woman is reflected over those years through the character and where she moves to and where we find her at currently?
Yeah. I remember when I was little, this was the 90s, and I was learning about the civil rights movement. And I was talking to my mom about it. My mom said to me that she was integrated into schools when she was in the 5th grade. And I was so shocked by it because in my mind, I thought, oh man, the people who went through the civil rights movement, that was a really long time ago. I don't know any of those people. I'll never meet those people. They're all dead now. This is little like 8-year-old Chris. My mom was like, no. I remember it very well, being integrated and being bused over to a school that had white kids. And so that in my own lifetime, I'm seeing the separation between my own mom and me, the generations of what it's like to grow up in a space where you're being told to use a certain water fountain or being told to sit at the back of the bus. My mom would jokingly say, like, when she was a kid growing up, the only time she ever saw a white person was when the insurance man would come door to door to sell life insurance. So this is, I think oftentimes when we think about history, it feels so far-fetched. And in actuality, those ancestors are really close. They're only one generation, maybe two generations away. So in playing Danielle at the start of season 1, it's 1969. Absolutely, Danielle went to segregated schools. Danielle was made to sit at the back of the bus. She was experiencing life, not just about her seat on the bus or which water fountain, but she was experiencing life as a person who was seen as a second-class citizen. Actually, the third-class citizen because she's also a woman. Chris, will never know intimately what that experience is like on a day-to-day basis. I can cherry pick bits of it. When someone was nasty to me at an airport or a cab driver, I raised my hand, he had the light on, but he drove past me. Of course, I know what it's like to be discriminated against, but not in an institutionalized way as intensely as Danielle has growing up, especially growing up in Memphis, Tennessee. So when we meet her, even though our story is not about the civil rights movement, I, as an actor, have to ingest all of that information because when she raises her hand in the classroom of all of the astronaut candidates, when she walks into that classroom of all white girls, when she is doing her flying test and the T-38s, she knows that every single move she's making is being put through the prism of being a Black woman and being assumed that she's not good enough, not smart enough, not capable, and has so much to prove. So it makes it even bigger when she goes on to stand up for herself in season 2 and say, it's not just enough that you let me that you let me go on a mission. I need to be a commander. It's even more important in season 3 when she goes on to be the first person on Mars. You know, she is living with this long history of coming truly from A to Z. So I, as an actor, have to gather up and cherry pick all those bits of information and then sort of digest it, metabolize it, and then do the best I can to tell that story with clarity and honesty when I play Danielle.
Okay, I'm Carolyn for So Here's What Happened in Carolyn Toss podcast. So one of the interesting things I think that's really stands out to me for this series is how it talks about geopolitics and how that ties into family dynamics and family issues. And for your character in season 3, she has this new position that she's been elevated to, and she's learning the ropes and having to fill in a spot of someone who was a friend to her, and she has to deal with taking over the community, as well as dealing with the politics between Earth and Mars, as well as having to keep her position as a woman and like dealing with the sexism and the pushback that comes from a male-dominated space. But she's also dealing with guilt over not being there for her own daughter and now making promises to a grandchild that she has yet to meet. So, can you talk about her guilt as a mother, but then potentially as a grandmother, and how that ties into the politics? Because these people are trying to make a home on Mars, but their families are on Earth, and they're struggling with the political complexities of that, as well as how that affects their family dynamics.
There's so many scenes that I can think of that really mean a lot to me. But this one moment in particular always makes me so happy. And it's in season 1, I think it's episode 5. And Danielle pulls up and she's grabbing Clayton from the Air Force base that he's landed at. And she just runs up to him and gives him this huge hug, and he spins her around and he kisses her. And you see in that moment that this is a real human being who has a husband that she misses, who has made it out from his time in Vietnam by the skin of his teeth. And we see her as a human being. That moment is the seed of who Danielle is. Of course, she's an intellectual, and she's got an acumen for business, and she's a scientist and a geologist, but she's also a real person who really has someone she loves that she misses dearly. So I love your question, because what excites me is the duality of both of these things, of her commitment to being an astronaut and her work to get to where she is, and then also this personal life that is in direct conflict with it. Seeing that her mission to keep Clayton together crumbles. We unfortunately don't get to see that because it's in the season 1 and 2 time jump. But when we meet her again at the beginning of season 2, she is lower than low. I don't know what it's like to live with a depressed person who is so low that they then commit suicide. What was that time like for Danielle? Was this the first attempt for Clayton, or was it the 5th attempt? Did she find his body? You have to ask yourself, like, what are the things that she experienced so that when we see her in season 2, she is emotionally and physically drained. She looks like she's seen a ghost. She's lost weight, and she is at the lowest of the lows. So that same Danielle, who is in her early 30s at the beginning of season 2, she's still in there when we see her season 4. That same woman knows what it's like to love and lost and have somebody who you couldn't save. And so now she's got this flourishing family back on Earth. Her relationship with Corey is deeper and stronger than ever. Isaiah's gone on to get married and have a baby of his own, and she can't be there. So I think the journey that Danielle has and the sort of push-pull of holding work in one hand and family in the other hand is a journey that women everywhere, all across, not just Black women, not just women in America, women everywhere are holding those two things at the same time. And I think it's what makes her really fun and really lovely to play as a character, is this rich family life that gives her a strong why. She has a real reason to be here. And yeah, I'm excited for you guys to see how the season ends.
I'm looking forward to it because it's interesting that no matter what planet you live on, there's some things we as human beings can't escape, and that's family drama. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
Chris, thank you for creating such a remarkable role. We are loving every moment of it. On behalf of the world's largest group of Black film and TV critics, happy holidays, and thank you for watching this edition of AAFCA Roundtables. Have a great day.
Having me. This was great.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Yay, thank you.
Thank you so much.